Perek Yud Bet, chapter 12 in Sefer Mishlei. You will notice from time to time, especially in this Perek, in many verses, he gives an example of someone who is virtuous, righteous, and one who is wicked and evil. Don't think that these are just examples of good people and bad people. In reality, what he's trying to point out are qualities or inclinations that every individual may have in himself. It's not something that we need to identify outside. Be aware of these individuals. That's true. That's also true. But if one identifies this in his child or in himself, he has to come to terms with this and work on it. That's why he points these out, not necessarily because these are to be found amongst the wicked and the evil, like we're talking about the worst people. It also could be that certain individuals have some good. No one is all bad, and no one is all good. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And that is the importance of these lessons, is to root them out, to work on one's midot, on one's character. Pasuk Aleph begins the chapter with a very important lesson, Ohev Musar, Ohev Da'at, V'soneh Tochachat Ba'ar. An individual who loves discipline, who accepts rebuke, he demonstrates that he loves knowledge. But one who's soneh, one who hates tochachat, one who hates reproof, is stupid. Ba'ar. All of us make mistakes from time to time. Sometimes an individual succumbs to his yetzarim, to his evil inclinations. That can happen. After all, the human being is frail. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu offers the opportunity to do teshuvah. And one of the most important steps in teshuvah is the willingness to listen to criticism, to listen to rebuke. If one accepts criticism, if one is willing to listen to the rebuke that he receives, that shows that his mind is healthy, that his intention is to improve himself, to correct his mistakes, and such an individual has a healthy mind. He calls it Ohev Da'at. He loves knowledge. Knowledge for what purpose? In order to correct himself, in order to improve himself. This is a very important idea when we're talking about a young couple or even an older couple. Regardless, husband and wife who have arguments from time to time, what do after a while when things do not get any better? One may suggest to go to a marriage counselor or to speak to someone. Well, the only way they're going to get there is that if they have a willingness to succeed, if they have a willingness to listen, to make changes. Otherwise, they're not going to pick themselves up and go. It is very important that a human being, Jew and non-Jew alike, be willing, be prepared to seek counsel, to seek the help of those who are professional, those who can really help, those who have an interest in helping, not just taking $500 an hour, right? And it's hard to find such people who really want to help you, who really care, and who are able to help you in whatever problem it is. But before we get to those individuals who can help, there has to be a willingness on the part of the individual who needs the help to seek the help. Or the couple, they have to be willing to work on their problems. Otherwise, nothing will get any better. It can only get worse. One who does not want to listen, one who does not want to make any changes in his life, he calls it the ba'ar. Ba'ar is stupid, empty-headed. Nothing good can come out of him. I mean, he's obviously only interested in himself. Human being is incomplete when he's born. He's born as an infant. He's developed slowly, as opposed to animals that are almost on their own after a couple weeks, feeding themselves. It is to remind us that we always need to perfect ourselves. We're not perfect. We're not complete when we are born. Part of that perfection is achieved upon marriage. And that is why it's not a good idea to stay single. Even though I know some men don't mind staying single. It's not a good idea. One completes himself by getting married, and one of the ways that he completes himself is that his wife will always point out his mistakes more than anybody else. She will hopefully get to know her husband very well, and as long as she's courageous and she dares point it out, she will find something to point out. And if the husband is smart, he should listen, because if a woman gives rebuke, if she criticizes her husband, hopefully and usually she means it for his own benefit, if she cares about him. And the other way is also true. Husband tells his wife, as long as he's not in a bad mood, because then he can say things that are not, right. He may have noticed something, but women are sensitive, and they may not take it right, in the right way. If there's honesty and openness between the two, there should be no reason why one should be afraid to give criticism to the other, as long as it's done in a constructive, in a positive way. But there needs to be a willingness to listen, and that's very, very important. The first step in reconciliation, the first step in teshuvah, the first step in making any changes in one's life. To be willing to accept that one may have made a mistake, to be willing to accept criticism. In this pasuk is also included one who accepts Yisurim be'ahava, Mekabel Yisurim be'ahava, one who's undergoing a very difficult challenge, he's very ill, pain. One has to accept it be'ahava, that it's all an atonement, a kapara, it's all min hashamayim for his good. That shows that he has a healthy mind, that he is ohev dat, he likes knowledge. In other words, there's something that he's hopefully going to learn from this. Instead of complaining, instead of being bitter, he's going to do something about it. He's at least going to try to understand it. Next pasuk, Tov yafik ratzon me'Adonai ve'ish mezimot yarshia. Tov meaning here a good man. A good man obtains favor from Hashem. Hashem is kind to him because he's a good man. Ve'ish mezimot yarshia. A wicked man, or a man who has corrupt ideas, yarshia, he can get others into trouble. Here he says he will be condemned. What it means is that if there is a wicked man in the neighborhood, in a city, then the whole city may suffer as a result of that man's actions. Ish mezimot yarshia. He can tip the scale against the community, especially if there's a lot of corruption going on. Whereas Tov yafik ratzon Hashem, a good man, a righteous man, there's a lot of benefit that can come through him to the community. Hashem will listen to his prayers. And there are many, many stories in our tradition of great rabbis, of righteous men, and even simple people. But because they were sincere and they were pure and righteous, Hashem listened to their prayers. Perhaps I'll share with you two stories, just quick examples of what it means, Tov yafik ratzon Hashem. There was once an individual in Eretz Israel who was an ignoramus when it came to Jewish tradition. He lived outside of the big cities, and whenever he wanted to know when's the next holiday, he would come into the big town, ask the rabbi to write it down, and explain to him what he should do, when he should do. And that's the way he led his life. He was a very sincere, simple person, worked his field, and did not know too much about Judaism, but he tried to do his best job in observing the mitzvot, fasted whenever there was a fast day, celebrated the holiday accordingly. One day he arrives in town and he sees the streets are empty. So he feels very bad. He says, if the streets are empty, that means it must be a holiday that I'm unaware of. And he feels bad and he begins to cry. Why did the rabbi tell him about this holiday today? So he goes looking for the rabbi. Everybody's in shul praying. He goes over to the rabbi, why didn't you tell me that today is a holiday? He said, no, today is not a holiday. I've already given you all the holidays. You've already written them down. Today is an unusual day. Today we all gather together in the shul because I asked everybody to gather because we haven't had rain for a long time, and I therefore asked everybody to fast and to come to pray. He says, Rabbi, I don't understand. You mean if there's no rain, that's what you do? You have to ask everybody to fast? You have to ask everybody to come together to the shul? Well, why go through all that trouble? So the rabbi turns to him, well, what would you do? He says, what do you mean what I would do? If there's no rain, I go outside to my backyard and I raise my eyes to heaven and I ask, Father, I need rain. And what happens after you ask, Father, I need rain? He says, the rain comes down. He says, really? Then you're going to be the Hazan today. Come over here and you pray. And believe it or not, after this man prayed, a couple minutes later the clouds gathered and it rained. An example of a man who is tamim, sincere, pure, no monkey business. Father, I need rain. How could you allow your children? That's what he exactly did. in the shul. How could you allow your children to starve, to go hunger? They need rain, send them rain. Aren't you their father? Out of sincerity, righteous man, a good man, simple man, ignorant, but sincere and pure. Tov, yafik ratzon Hashem. These people who are really good, they can draw some good from Hashem. There was another famous story with Moshe Galanti, a famous rabbi in Israel, who also was living during a time where there was danger of drought and starvation. There hadn't been rain for a long time. And the Arabs were smart back then. The Arabs knew that if the Jews prayed, things can happen. And the Arab came over, the main mufti or whatever, Qadi, came over to the rabbi and he said, listen, you better pray. If no rain comes down within the next 3 days, we're going to drive all of you Jews out of this community. Rabbi called a fast for 3 days in a row, fast and prayer. And after they were done, the rabbi tells everybody in his congregation, now we're going to go to the cave of Shimon HaTzadik, we're going to pray there. However, once we finish with the prayer there, I'm confident that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us rain. So take your winter clothes with you. This is a summer day. So you should not be caught without your raincoat. Take your winter clothes. As they're headed to the cave of Shimon HaTzadik, the Arab who's in charge of the gate over there starts making fun of the Jews. Where are you going with your winter clothes? So he said, the rabbi told us that we should prepare for rain. So he went over and began to yell at the rabbi. He hit him. He says, what are you doing? Making up stories like that? There's no cloud in the sky. Nevertheless, they continued, went to prayer in the cave of Shimon HaTzadik, cried their heart out. And right after they finished, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the clouds gathered and the rain started pouring. Cats and dogs, like they say in English, for 3 days in a row. All the wells in Yerushalayim and elsewhere filled up, and they had enough water. On their way back home, that Arab who hit the rabbi and made fun of the Jews went over and kissed his feet, asked him for forgiveness, and later came to his home and asked him to be converted. He was impressed. Whatever they did, nothing worked. There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of stories of Tov Yafik Ratzon Hashem, that those who are good, who are sincere, Hashem will grant their wishes. Lo yikom adam beresha v'shorosh tzadikim bal yimot. A man should not be established by wickedness. What that means is one who establishes his business, his life, with wickedness, with corruption, it will not last. It may appear that he's doing well, but it does not last forever. Something that is built on something that's on a corrupt foundation, on wickedness, will not last. V'shorosh tzadikim bal yimot. Shoresh is the root. The root of the righteous will not be moved. In other words, even though the righteous, the tzaddikim, suffer, even though many of them have been persecuted and killed, bal yimot means they will not be moved. Because the root is there, the shoresh is there, even though somebody may come along and remove the tree, the trunk will renew itself. A new tree will come out, a new generation. The children will continue even though their parents are gone. The shoresh of the tzaddikim will always remain in the ground. We cannot touch them. They will not be moved. Whereas the resha, that which is evil, will not last. This is a reminder, as well as all the other pesukim that are similar to this, to those who think that the wicked are getting away with it, that they're succeeding, that they're doing things in the wrong way, not in accordance with the Torah. All of that which is corrupt and evil will not last. But the shoresh, the root of the tzaddikim, will not be moved. Eshet hay lateret ba'ala. Very important pasuk about what a woman means, what a precious woman, an eshet hayl, a righteous woman, a virtuous woman, what she means. What difference does it make in a husband, in a man's life? A virtuous woman who's God-fearing, she's the crown of her husband. A man is proud of his kids. But believe me, based on what he's saying over here, the greatest pride that a man can have is from his wife. Because that's what he likes to show. Man wants to be able to show off his wife. She is the crown of her husband if she does things properly. But the other way around, ucherakav be'atzmotav mevisha. A woman who is a shameful woman, not a virtuous woman, to her husband she is like rottenness in the bones. How do bones rot? When there's a certain warmth that enters the bones and it begins to rot. In other words, there's a tremendous source of aggravation, pain, shame. All of that is called rakav be'atzmotav. And we're obviously talking about in a situation where the man and woman cannot easily divorce. Otherwise, he would just, terminate the relationship. So this could be a curse. This could be a terrible experience for the man or for the woman. We have to be fair. If the other partner is not virtuous. Eshet Hayla Teret Ba'ala, the commentary says, is also talking about two different kinds of women. A woman who knows how to manage the finances properly. She saves her husband some money. Whereas the other one is a big spender. And that's also a source of aggravation. Eshet Hayla Teret Ba'ala is also talking about Nahagut Isha, the conduct, how she conducts herself. If she's modest, does she yell in public? Does she use bad language? And Eshet Hayla is obviously one who has all the good midot, the good qualities, and if she does conduct herself properly, she's a crown to her husband. Her husband is proud of her. The other way around, Chas v'Shalom, one who does not have that kind of a woman, it could be kirakav, it could be like rottenness in the bones. Why is he telling this to us? I mean, either you're stuck or you're not. Well, there's several reasons. First of all, investigate as much as possible before you get married the mahut, the essence of the individual, not just the outside. What's the essence? What are they all about? It's hard. You can never get to know a person well until you get married to them. Nevertheless, investigate as much as you can and don't look for outside appearances. You want to be proud, you want to be happy. And there's certain things to look for. That's reason number one that he mentions this. Don't be fooled by money and by all these outside appearances. Another idea of why he would remind us this is because this really makes a difference in one's life, what kind of a marriage one has. If a person is not very well off, if a person is not doing too well, he changes jobs every so often, that's his mazal. Not everybody has the same job for 35 years, retires, has a pension, social security, vegamarno, that's it. Some people really change jobs. And you think they want to? No, it's their mazal. Either they get fired, they get burned out, many things happen, and people are not always happy with their job. So people have their ups and downs in many areas of life. Hopefully not in the area of marriage. That's something that one has to do his best to preserve. Even if there are differences, one has to try to improve it, try to do whatever you can, because this makes such a big difference to the quality of life, more than how much money one puts into the bank. What kind of a wife does he have? What kind of a husband does she have? It means a lot more than anything else. So there's an emphasis, and we will see the last chapter of Mishlei is about that too. Eshet Hayl mi yimtza. A big emphasis on maximizing this very beautiful or potentially beautiful relationship. Alright, next pasuk, Machshavot tzadikim mishpat tahbulot reshaim mirma. The thoughts of the righteous are right, whereas the tahbulot of the reshaim mirma, all the bad thoughts, the wicked thoughts of those who are evil, mirma, to cheat, to deceive. He's talking about the machshavot, the thoughts. We have thoughts and we have actions. What is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is not necessarily one who stops from and holds himself back from doing a maaseh, a deed which he knows is not right. It's definitely a tzaddik. A true tzaddik over here he says is that the machshavot, even the thoughts, are not thinking in that direction. There are people, there are individuals who a whole day are thinking on how to make more money by cheating people, by stealing. They're trying to find ways to take advantage of people, how to get every cent out of them, to squeeze them of every dollar. People have these thoughts, these ideas. How to cheat insurance companies. They think up of all sorts of ideas on how to do terrible things. They plot. Plotting is a machshava, is a thought. The tzaddik never thinks in that direction. It doesn't even enter his mind for one moment that he should cheat, that he should lie, that he should try to make his money in a deceitful way. He doesn't even think like that. Whereas the Rasha'im, it's all tahbulot, it's all mirma. This is important, again, as I said earlier, if you're able to identify this in a child, in anybody that you have any influence, that his mind is crooked, his mind is corrupt. He's always thinking on how to take advantage of people, on how to gain wealth on other people's cheshbon. That's a form of rish'ot, that's evil. Next pasuk, divrei resha'im erov dam ufi yesharim yatzilem. This pasuk could be in court. This could be talking about a court, litigation, where you have individuals who are out to defeat someone, to take away someone's money. Erov dam means to ambush him, even if it means spilling his blood. How? By bringing false witnesses. It makes no difference in what court of law you are, in this country or elsewhere. Somebody can testify falsely. So what if it's perjury? As long as they don't discover, he can get someone into trouble. And the police sometimes give over false reports too. And that's called to frame someone. I always thought that never could happen. The police should frame one? In this country? Maybe in Russia. It happens here too. How many people have been imprisoned falsely until 20 years later, after rotting in jail, through their DNA, oh, we just realized that he didn't do it. And the man sat for 20 years in jail. This stories, every couple of months you will find them in the newspaper today, because DNA has become so advanced today that they are able to go back and take the pieces of evidence and draw from it whatever they can draw to see if the guy did it or not. Mistakes happen. We can't blame them always, unless it was intentional. And that's what he's talking about. Divrei Reshaim erov dam. There are people who intentionally will do anything, and the typical example in our Torah is Achav. Achav wanted to take over the vineyard of no. One second. Navot Israeli. Yeah. And Navot says, no, I don't want to sell it to you. It's mine, it's been in my family for many generations. Why should I sell it to you? Just because it's close to your palate, just because you like it? Achav was disappointed. He comes home, and Nizevel, his wife, the wicked woman, tells him, what are you so upset about? And he tells her about what Navot did. He refused him. So Nizevel says, what's the big deal? Hire 2 witnesses that he committed a sin and have him killed. She was much wicked than him. And that's what he did. And Navot was killed.
That you said the reason why he was killed.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah. If you want to know why he died, so the Medrash says he had a beautiful voice. And he had a beautiful voice, and a lot of people went to Yerushalayim during the holidays just to hear him. And one year, he says, I'm not going, for whatever reason. Now the Torah says that during the holidays, no nation in the world, no enemy will think of invading Israel. But that's the best time to invade. When all the Jews are in Yerushalayim, only the women and kids are left behind. No, the Torah says, don't worry about it. You make Aliyah LaRegel, the land will not be invaded. No enemy will think of invading. Navot did not go up one year. And what happened as a result of not going up? Somebody did covet his land. The Torah says nobody will covet your land, nobody will invade your land. He did not go up to the regel, so somebody did covet his own personal land. And not only was his land taken away, he lost his life too. That was his avon. But anyway, what was the point of the story? Is that you had individuals, they were Jewish, who were wicked, corrupt, who had ta'avot, desires, and were willing to do anything, even to kill an innocent man, just for his piece of land, for his vineyard. That's called Divrei Reshaim Erov Dam. They will do anything, and they will speak in court and accuse one falsely, even though it means spilling his blood. In other words, they are so wicked, they can go to this extreme. Whereas Ufiya, yes?
Anyway, the same year.
Huh?
One that took away his field died the same year. He and his wife both died with parts of their bodies missing.
Right.
Not by dog.
Eventually, right, each one got the punishment that corresponds to them. Ufi yesharim yatzilem. But those who are righteous, those who are honest, they will save people. They will defend, if they are attorneys, they will defend one because they believe in them, not because they want to make $1 or $2. They will do whatever they can to speak up for someone, to defend him. That is the attitude of those who are yesharim, the exact opposite of those who are reshaim. To defend, to speak up, to save a person's life if possible, to, how do you say, with the witnesses, when you cross-examine them. They will cross-examine them carefully. The Sanhedrin was told, be careful to cross-examine witnesses to see if there's any contradictions between what the two of them are saying. There's so many halachot on how to be careful with testimony because we rely so much on testimony. And it could be false testimony. So one who is eager to defeat someone, to beat someone, he may go to any extreme just to get his way. Those who are yesharim yatzilem, they do whatever is in their power to help people. That's the next pasuk. The wicked are overthrown, and there are no more. They disappear, but the house of the righteous shall stand. Even though a Rasha appears to be in power, he's a dictator, Hashem can easily make him disappear very quickly. We should not lose hope, even though those who are in charge are wicked. Because once they're gone, their influence disappears, and being gone can happen in a moment. Whereas the house of the righteous will stand forever. Even though he's gone, his house, meaning his children, the following generation will rise. Even though we've had holocausts, we had Churban Bayit Rishon, Churban Bayit Risheni, the destruction of the temples, and many problems, there's always been a house of tzaddikim. A new generation has come up, and the tzaddikim continue to flourish. But the moment Hashem decides that the Rasha is gone, he is gone forever. But it does not always happen right away. Hitler, was around for a while, even though they attempted to assassinate him. They attempted many ways to overthrow him, and nothing succeeded. Even with Stalin, it was very, very difficult. Until at the very, very end, they both died in a very interesting way. Why? Why did it take so long? Because even though he's a Rasha, and even though Hashem can make him disappear from the scene very quickly, sometimes Hashem wants an individual in power for a while, for whatever reason, that man has to carry out something. So Hitler, Stalin, they were in power. They were in power for whatever reason, for a certain amount of time. They needed to be in that position. But as soon as Hashem decides they're gone, they're gone. And that can happen like this. Next pasuk, Lefi sichlo yehulal ish v'na'aveh lev yeh lavuz. A man should be commended according to his wisdom. Commended means to praise, to admire, according to his wisdom. V'na'aveh lev yeh lavuz. But he who has a perverse heart shall be despised. What this means is as follows. There are individuals who have a lot of money, and that may be one reason people will admire them. There are those who look nice, who are handsome. People may admire that. There are many reasons why people may be admired. It says the greatest admiration should be, one should not be proud of how strong he is, but askel v'yado oti bezot yithalel. One should be proud, and we should admire and look up to those who are God-fearing. Askel v'yado oti is, how much does he know me? The Prophet says. Kids put pictures of their favorite basketball stars on the wall because that's what they admire. That's wrong. Nothing wrong with playing basketball, with enjoying a game, and so forth. But from that to admiring and elevating one in your bedroom, there's a big distance. The pasuk says that your eyes should see your teachers. We want to train children to look up to the rabbis, to the tzaddikim, so they can emulate and eventually be one of them. So these things should be discouraged, should not be put up in the walls.
Otherwise this is a form of admiration. So according to his wisdom, according to how much yirat shamayim he has, how much sechel of that which is yirat shamayim does he have. That is something to admire. There are some people who are geniuses. Photographic memory. Should we admire that? That's a gift mishamayim. He did not do anything on his own. I think we've spoken about this before. Rabbis tell us who is a gibor in Pirkei Avot, a kovesh et yisro. Who's really strong? One who controls his temper, one who controls his evil inclination. Right? It doesn't say one who's able to lift 450 pounds. He is gibor. There's another. I think it's a Gemara Braita that says, "Ve'ezu gibor shebegiborim," and who's the strongest of all? Misha oseh mison'o chavero, whoever makes of an enemy a friend. Did you ever try to do something like that? It's very difficult. If one is able to achieve that, to make from an enemy a friend, he's a real strong man. It takes a lot of strength. These are things that are admirable. One who works on himself, one who has yirat shamayim, who has developed something that he has not received through his mazal, but he did it on his own. Therefore, not the actual mental capability that he has, the brains, but what he has put into his mind. Garbage or yirat shamayim. V'navei lev yelavuz, one who has a naveh lev, it's a perverted heart, or a crooked, corrupt mind, he eventually will be despised. People will not like him. He has misused this tremendous gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given him, and he has filled it up with vulgarities, with pornography, with all these ideas that are perverted. And that's a shame, because that same mind, that same individual has the ability, if he only chose to fill that sechel with good things. So what should we admire? What one puts into that sechel. Better is a man who is lightly esteemed because he does something very low for a living. Ve'eved lo, in other words, who has a servant, or he's like a servant to himself. In other words, what does it mean, a servant to himself? That means he's not self-employed, he works for someone else. This is better. In other words, a low job, the fact that he's a servant to someone else, this is better than mitkabed v'chasar lachem, from somebody who is proud, who's vain, who honors himself but lacks bread. This is the typical pasuk describing those who don't want to work unless they're able to work in the exact same field that they received a degree. Many Russians have come from Russia to Israel. They said, I'm an engineer. I don't want to do anything else. It's beneath their dignity. As I've explained in the past, sir, what do you care about your kavod right now? Go do anything and bring home some bread. Isn't it better to do something nikle, something low, even though it's ve'eved lo, that you're working for someone else, mitkabed, than just being proud and have hasar lechem and have no bread on the table? And the rabbis emphasize this point very, very much by telling us one has to be willing to pshot nevelata beshuka, ve'al tomar gavra rabani. If you have to sell hides, stinking hides, animal hides in the street, they stink. Do that and don't say it's beneath my dignity. Gavra rabani. I'm a very important person. This is not right. And they also tell us, even take upon yourself a job that is foreign to you, but don't come on to people. Make your Shabbat a simple meal. Shabbat is usually a beautiful time. We have a good meal. We eat better than we eat during the week. Make your Shabbat a weekday meal. Sardines and crackers. But don't come on to people. Don't ask them for loans. If you can avoid asking people for loans, it's better. Make your meal simple if you have to, and don't ask people for favors. Who needs favors? In the same way, do whatever it is that you can. My favorite example is go wash dishes in El Coyote restaurant here, if you have to. If you need a second job, do it. Be a waiter. Whatever it is, but bring home food. You can't wait around until you find your job. What are the kids going to do? What are they going to eat? So it's better for a person to do something nikle ve'eved lo, to work for someone else, than to just be proud and have no bread. What did he accomplish? Rabbis tell us, "Ehov et hamelacha." Don't sit at home doing nothing. Do something. You should love to work. Work brings accomplishment. It helps with the self-esteem. Kids will not look up to their dad if he's lazy, doesn't want to work. Do anything. Yodea tzaddik nefesh behemto v'rachamei resha'im achzari. A righteous man, a tzaddik, has compassion. That's what one of the commentaries says. It's talking about having compassion for animals, as we say in the Kriyat Shema, that one has to feed the animals before he eats himself. If you have animals, you have goldfish, anything, you feed them first before you feed yourself. Have compassion on them. The nefesh of a tzaddik is compassionate. He looks after even animals. But the compassion of the wicked is cruelty. What does that mean? A rasha who has no compassion may give the appearance that he has compassion on the outside, but that compassion of the rasha is really achzari, it's really cruel. And the only reason he may sometimes be compassionate is because he wants to take control over you. He has an interest, he has something to gain, and as a result of that he shows rachamim. But that rachamim is achzari, it's not real compassion. Yodea tzaddik nefesh behemto, the rabbis tell us that Shlomo Melech is insinuating in these words that a tzaddik recognizes the animal in him, and he does not allow that animal in him to get away with it, to get everything it wants and desires. Yodea tzaddik, the tzaddik recognizes it, and he controls the animal within him. Rachamei resha'im achzari, that the compassion of those who are wicked is really cruelty, brings to mind a story that happened about 80 years ago, during the World War I, maybe a little bit before. A rabbi was walking down the streets in Berlin or in Frankfurt, in one of those cities in Germany, and he sees a German citizen, a goy, kissing his dog. Not one kiss, many kisses, kissing his dog. I'm sure they have that here too, you know. They even have parks for dogs here. They have dog sitters, you know. They have everything now. So anyway, he saw this German kissing his dog. He says, I have a feeling that a civilization that treats animals in such a perverted way, a kiss, which really belongs to a human being, to those who you care about, a civilization that treats animals in such a perverted way will one day murder human beings. This is a lot before, years before the Nazis. These are Germans. The dogs, they were kissing their dogs, going to philharmonic orchestras, very civilized, very cultured supposedly, but with perverted ideas. That was the impression that he got. One who is capable of handling his dog in such a unusual way, which most people don't do, it would show the opposite, that he would have the opposite attitude for those that he has to demonstrate that kind of affection, and instead he will be eventually cruel to them. Yes?
Why is it perverted to kiss a dog? Most dog owners do kiss their dogs.
It's unusual. It was a very unusual thing, especially back then. There's nothing...
Times have changed in the last 80 years.
Yeah.
Follow?
Things have changed. Back then it was very unusual.
It's different today.
It was very unusual. It was like, you know, whoever did that, you know. Today things have changed. You've gotten used to it. You've seen it. You see it so much. People walk for dogs. People pick up after their dogs. People behave like dogs. You have, you know, they have dog contests. I mean, today, you know, the world has changed.
Is it perverted to kiss your dog?
No, it's not really perverted. There's nothing wrong with it. But back then, it was a very unusual sight to see this man who was treating this animal in a very unusual way. In other words, kissing it as though this would be his child, and it's not. It's an animal. I mean, how much affection could you show an animal? It wasn't normal, and it's still not. You know, unless that's all you have and you have no kids. People ask me, why don't Orthodox people have pets, except for goldfish and parrots, maybe? And occasionally they do. It's very simple. Between all the kids, who has time for another pet? You want to give...
Problem with Pesach.
Besides, you want to give all your love and time for your kid. You have to, and when you go on vacation, who are you going to leave the dog with? So there's nothing wrong with having a dog, as long as it's not a pit bull, right? If it's a good, yes.
When you take him for a walk, you have to pick him up.
Sure. Yeah. All these problems, yeah. So anyway, so this rabbi somehow saw this vision. This rabbi had this vision, this insight. And he was the right insight that a nation, a people, a civilization that can show such unusual behavior with animals, they're going to show unusual behavior with human beings too. Where you need to be merciful, you need to be merciful. Where you need to be cruel, you need to be cruel. The rabbis tell us, "Shekol merachem al achzarim." Whoever has pity on those who are cruel will eventually be cruel on those who deserve to be merciful on and compassionate on. So we have to know, how to conduct ourselves properly in these situations. There are some situations that require our compassion, and others that do not. Next pasuk, Oved admato yizba lachem umeradef rekim chasar lev. He who tills his land shall have plenty of bread, but he who follows vain persons is void of understanding. That's his translation over here. In other words, one who works hard for a living, yizba lachem, he will be satisfied. Hashem will give him. Hashem will provide for him. And he who meradef rekim, he follows vain persons. He hangs around with those who are bums, but there's another word for those who sit ala barzelim. Yeah, those who sit, and do nothing. You go to Wall Street downtown, and you'll see a bunch of them there, with their Whoever works hard, Yizbalach, will have what to eat. Meradef rekim chasalev. He's an ignorant person. He's void of understanding. What he's adding here is a very important point. Don't take this lightly. There are people who work hard for their money. There are people who want to make it easy. They want to have an easy life, and therefore they want to gamble. So we're talking about here, one of the examples of meradef rekim is going after these kind of individuals, was joining them and doing what they're doing, gambling. Now what's wrong with gambling? Once in a while you want to put a quarter in to try your luck, nothing will happen. That's fine. It's not asur. But it is asur to do this for a living, to do this regularly. Rabbi tells us, "Hamesachek bekuvya pasul le'edut." One of the people who are disqualified, who could not be a witness, is one who gambles regularly. But why? Very simple. If the guy is careless about his money, you think he's going to care about your money? He's called to be a witness about a financial issue. Can we trust him? He's careless about his money. He's not going to take this case seriously. That's one explanation. Rabbis also tell us that one who gambles, don't have pity on him because he has no pity for his own family. So don't help him. Don't give him any money. It's a sickness. It's addictive. Help his family if you want, but don't help him. Because if he has no rahmanut for his family, he doesn't deserve rahmanut for himself too. He's lacking understanding. He doesn't realize what's important in life. He doesn't realize that money comes from Hashemayim. He doesn't realize that if he would work hard, Hashem would bless him. Yizbal lachem, he would have bread. Hamad rasha metzod ra'im v'shoresh tzadikim yiten. I'm not going to use his translation here. I don't like it. Hamad rasha metzod ra'im means one who, the wicked, who craves, who desires to be around those who are evil. Why does he want to be around those who are evil? Because he wants to share in their spoils. He wants to make a fast buck, like they say in English, easy money. And that's what these people do. Metzod ra'im. Metzod ra'im means that they hunt, they steal, they do things in a crooked way. So Hamad Rasha, a wicked man, wants to associate with these people because he wants to make money fast. V'shoresh tzadikim yiten. Look at the tzaddik, the root of the tzaddik. Their root. Where does he come from? He comes from a different philosophy. Don't take from other people. Be a giver. Shoresh tzadikim is yiten. Doesn't think about himself. Everything for me, for me, for me, for me. Shoresh tzadikim is, the root of the tzaddik is to be a giver. Commentaries tell us from this pasuk that you can tell a lot about an individual by who he associates with. As the saying goes in many languages, tell me who your friend is and I'll tell you who you are. Shoresh tzadikim miten, a tzaddik always is happy with whatever he receives min hashamayim. He doesn't complain. He doesn't try to make up his salary in some crooked way. Whatever Hashem gives, the tzaddik accepts. Does not look for other ways to make up for what he thinks he's lacking, because that's what Hashem decided to give him. That is what He's going to make him happy. The wicked is trapped at the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. Loosely translated, what he's saying over here is that many people stumble as a result of saying the wrong thing. The lips, the mouth, the language that we use can cause us a lot of trouble. Therefore, be careful. It could be a mokesh ra. You may not be able to take back that which was said. You may have insulted someone, may have said something that is not right. So this time could be a mokesh. It could be a stumbling block. Whereas vayetze mitzarat tzaddik, a tzaddik knows how to get out of trouble. He's more careful. He watches what he says. He thinks about it before he says it. That is the last pasuk for today. A man should be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the reward of a man's hands shall be rendered to him. Again, the translation is just very wordy. What it means is as follows: HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give to one what he has done to others. Midah keneged midah. In other words, when we do an act of kindness, something good towards others, there's two things that are going to come out of it. We're going to help someone, and we're going to get helped as well. But he says over here, mipri pi ish, from one's mouth, not only from one's hands. It's from one's mouth, and ugmur yedei adam, for one's hands. It means that one is able to help individuals with his mouth, and able to help people with his hands. Both can accomplish a great deal. Mipri pi ish, therefore, is imagine somebody asking you about an individual. Should I hire him? Should I become partners with him? What do you think about this shidduch for my child? Is this a good man? Is this a good girl? A good word can go a long way. It can make a big difference. And the rabbis tell us that whoever does say a kind word about someone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers this a maaseh. Even though all it appears is that he said a word, and a word is not a deed. Nevertheless, words are powerful, as we've said all along. Lashon hara is terrible. But just like Lashon hara is terrible, could you imagine the strength of Lashon tov? To speak good, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to look at the good side of them, not to just focus on their negative traits, but to focus on the good things, to be positive. And this is what they tell us how to deal with children. Instead of pointing out, you're nothing, look, you failed, you're miserable, you're lazy, you're a tzaddik. You could be the best in your class. You know how much better you could be if you were only to do it this way and this way. If you would go to sleep early, you would have much more clarity in class. All of these are good words that can go a long way in inspiring our children and inspiring people to perfect themselves. B'ezrat Hashem.